Hello and welcome to this edition of Bayou Time. I'm your host, Keith Whiteside, licensed clinical social worker. You're going to hear that term, licensed clinical social worker, quite a bit as we talk to one of our favorite licensed clinical social workers in the area, Lisa Schilling. Lisa, thanks for joining us again.
Thank you so much for having me.
We appreciate it. You know, Lisa's executive director of South Central Louisiana Human Services Authority, and they provide so many resources for our area and so many different options for taking care of people, but this is a different kind of scenario about dealing with stress right now.
It is, and about depression and recovery and everything that's going on in our world, so to speak, and particularly in our community with what we've gone through with, Hurricane Ida and all of that. So I think, just to talk about how we're going to make it through the holidays, because that's really important because we don't always focus on ourselves.
Right.
So to talk a little bit about how we can better our options for getting through the holidays.
Yeah, and Lisa's always so good. She's so very well prepared, and so kind of want to let people know how things come full circle and how we are coping through the holidays. So guys, bring that up if you don't mind, as we're going to kind of walk through this with you, and Lisa, we'll let you take the reins as we go.
Yeah, so if we can go to that first slide, I love this quote because I think it's very appropriate for all of us right now. Just because you're supposed to be happy around the holidays doesn't mean that everyone is, and that's okay.
Yeah, we got to
be able to. Like a deep breath just to say that, because of everything that we've been going through, and it just feels like, Christmas came so fast. And so just to be able to put our mindset around that and say, it's okay if I don't get everything done. So let me really prioritize and think about what the important things are and how do I get to those.
Yeah, one of my favorite books called Think On. In that book, it's a very small book, tiny, it says you don't have to be positive, you just have to be yourself.
You have to be yourself.
And sometimes it's hard to be real positive and happy. This holiday season, it's tough. And I got to tell you, there's a lot of people in the community, people like y'all that are doing stuff like that to be able to help other people, but it's a good starting point.
Yeah.
To know.
Thank you so much. So let's talk about depression in the holidays. We talked a little bit about, Hurricane Ida, our devastation and recovery, pandemic fatigue. 2 years of this has been a lot. And then there's another variant out there right now, the Omicron variant. And so what is that going to mean for us? Because they're talking that it's really going to ramp up in January. So wrapping our minds around that. And then there's all this wonderful Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, joy to the world type of thing. And you're seeing all of these messages on Facebook and social media, and everyone's so happy, and they're posting all these wonderful pictures, and you think, how are they so happy? The thing about that is you don't know what happened before that picture was taken or really what's going on in their lives. So it's best to really concentrate on yourself, stay in your lane, but try not to be like what that last thing says, bah humbug. Find a way to be positive.
That's right.
So let's talk a little bit about depression because you and I both know the medical definition of that is an illness that involves the body, mood, and thoughts, and that affects the way a person eats, sleeps, feels about himself or herself, and thinks about things. So it really can just take over your whole body, your whole mindset, if you let it.
Right, and that, if you think about that, it's all of those things. It's
right.
Body, mood, thoughts, and then it affects all of the different aspects of your life. It basically can really infiltrate into your thinking.
And can really affect everyone else in your life. So friends,
good
family.
Point.
Yeah. So
really good point.
Depression is not the same as a passing blue mood. A lot of people will think that, like, oh, you can just get over it. You'll be okay. Yeah. But it's also not a sign of personal weakness or a condition that can be wished away. So I think that's very important. It's not a personal weakness. People with depression cannot merely pull themselves together and get better, and without treatment, symptoms will not go away. Appropriate treatment, however, can help most people with depression. So I feel like that's very important for us to know. I said this yesterday to a group that we spoke to that, at every point or some points in our life, we need help to get through different things. So it's not a sign of weakness to ask for help and to realize that you need help to work through those problems. A lot of people think that, oh, no, I can't do that. I can't get help. I don't need help. Sure.
Right.
We've all been there.
Right.
We've all had to get help
right.
to work their problem.
And listen, even those of us who provide that help, get help. I went to see a therapist.
I have too.
and there's a reason, because we all need that help. And so people who are watching these two licensed clinical social workers on TV, guess what? We've asked for help as well.
We've had to get help
That's
as
right.
well. That's right, because you can't do it on your own.
That's exactly right. So how do people recognize those symptoms?
Sure. So physical. So the increase or loss of appetite a lot of times, increase or loss of weight, fatigue or restlessness. Mood is really big too. So we talk about this anxiety, general discontent, guilt, hopelessness, loss of interest, behavioral agitation, excessive crying, irritability, social isolation. That's a big one because that can help during the holidays because you're so depressed. You don't want to be around anyone or do anything. Sleep, this is big. Early awakening, excess sleepiness, insomnia, which I have just generally, or restless sleep.
Right.
And then cognitive, the lack of concentration, slowness, inactivity, or thoughts of suicide. So we really want to be able to help individuals before they get to that last word we just said, the suicide thought. So it's trying to help them find ways to, work through their own depression, to have positive thoughts, and to know that it can get better if you do get treatment and if you get help.
Yeah, and those two things are really important. Looking at those 5 different aspects, those 5 different areas of your physical, your mood, behavioral, sleep, and cognitive, and I want people to really see that and look at that. And the reason is because if you recognize some of those things, we want you to see that as some signs. Okay, maybe I need to get some help, and we're going to provide that information about how to get the help.
So I thought it'd be nice for us to look at how depressed are Americans during the holidays.
Okay.
If we can bring up that slide. So you'll see that it mentions that about 39.3% are neutral and 35.3% are happier because they love putting out those decorations, getting into it. But 25%, 0.4% are more depressed. And so I feel like that this is actually a slide from 2019 where we got information. I'm sure if they did it now nationwide, this would look a little different.
I'm sure.
And after this pandemic, yeah.
Right. After the pandemic, it would look differently, and certainly with IDA recovery in this area, if we did Louisiana or South Louisiana, it would look different. I saw both the happier percentage and the more depressed percentage last night around 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
As I was walking my dogs, there were a couple putting out Christmas lights, and she was all excited, and he was not. And so it was really interesting to me.
Isn't that normal?
Exactly. So it just made me smile seeing that. It made me think of that.
Yes. So we'll look at that next slide, please. Holiday impact on individuals. I think this is really interesting, too. The impact on mental health, according to a recent survey by NAMI, National Alliance on Mental Illness, reports that approximately 64% of people with a diagnosed mental illness find the holidays made their condition worse.
Wow.
That's huge.
Just by nature of the season.
Right. And everything that goes along with that. We're going to talk about that in a minute.
Right.
And then the impact on substance abuse, according to a recent survey conducted by drugabuse.com, 94% of respondents in recovery reported feeling overwhelmingly or moderately stressed during the holidays. And we know what stress can do to someone that's recovering from addiction.
It can be a terrible trigger for them.
It's a huge trigger.
And that can be such a difficult thing.
So here we go again, looking at how stressed are Americans during the holidays. And so you can see that 15.9% are not stressed at all, 19.8% are overwhelmingly stressed, and 64.3% are moderately stressed. So it's a lot of stress.
That's exactly right. I don't know any of those 15.9 that are not stressed at all.
I know.
I'd like to meet some of those people.
I mean, even before everything that happened with the pandemic and then with the IDA, because it's just a stressful time of the year.
It just is.
So let's talk about the stressors that come along with this holiday season. It's supposed to be so much fun.
Right.
So we're getting into the point where people are talking about, we've been through a lot. The pandemic has changed, the way that people work. And also, their finances, and now IDA on top of that. So financial strain is even greater for us in our area.
It's huge.
And so, just thinking about how am I going to pay for everything that's going on with my house because I don't have my insurance check yet, or, buying those gifts for your children and loved ones. It also strains relationships with family and friends, i.e. you talking about the gentleman not being that happy about putting up the, decorations, but his wife was like, let's get this done. Sometimes you're missing an ex-partner or a deceased family friend. And, for me, next week will be 4 years since my father passed away. And so you do think about those things. And we just had a really great employee that passed away. And, you think about all those things. And it's so horrible. It usually does happen around the holidays.
Right.
So that brings additional stress and depression.
That end of the year is kind of that review
Right.
of people that we're missing.
I think so too.
Yeah.
So juggling those huge to-do lists. Oh, I got to get everything decorated. I've got to get the gifts. I've got to get the tree up. I've got to make sure we have the food. It's a lot. Of course, some people like to decorate really early. A good friend of mine who put up her stuff in October, those people wanted to rush to Christmas because they wanted to have some happiness.
Right. Want to find some joy.
Right. Being alone. Okay, so I can identify with this because, mostly through this pandemic now, I've been with my dog Gracie. She doesn't really talk, but we're trying to work on that. Yeah. Giving and buying gifts, we kind of, touched on that.
Right.
Unrealistic expectations. I think this is big.
Yeah.
People blow up the holidays, especially Christmas, with unrealistic expectations about, I need to buy everybody a special gift. I need to spend this amount of money when you could really make it just simple and
Right.
sweet.
And that's where it strains relationships with family and friends because one may think one thing, one may think another.
Right. And then the social media overload. And we kind of touched on that because it really can take your mind to a different place.
Right. Right.
So so let's talk about those negative coping skills that go along with trying to deal with those stressors.
Right.
Excessive drinking. So there we go. We're talking
Right.
about our individuals that have addictions. Drug use, gambling, eating and shopping. So let me just fall back into something that I know will give me that euphoric feeling, that great feeling, and I know it
comfort.
works.
That
Comfort, right. Isolation from support systems. So there we go again. Family, friends. You're not feeling great about yourself, so you don't want to revisit anything with them.
Right.
So it's better if I just stay to myself, which is really not. You need to reach out and have that support system there for you.
And even if you don't say a whole lot like Gracie,
Right.
just having someone or something that you love can make you feel a little better.
Most definitely. Hanging around non-supportive individuals, that's huge.
Like that substance abuse issues,
Yes.
going back to some old patterns.
Right. And even with some of our mental health patients, they get around the addiction patients, and then you've just got a whole conglomerate of things going on there.
Right.
And avoiding social activities. This is not great either. Just really taking yourself out of everything that brings you comfort, and the people that can just spiral you downward in depression. And that's not somewhere you want to be during the holidays.
And so if you get a chance to go to that ugly sweater Christmas party,
That's right.
you should just say yes,
You should
even if it's
just
for a
go.
little while.
That's right.
Even
Go
if you
enjoy
don't
the
want to go.
food and enjoy your friends and family and try to make it a positive experience.
Now let's talk about what people can do to get help.
That's it. What can you do? Treatment options. So if we can pull that up, please, we can talk about several things. This first one, I don't know if anyone, not a lot of people have heard about it, but it's very easy and it's simple and you can do it
Right.
on your own. Bright
Right.
light therapy. You can buy that AV lamp.
Right.
And it will help manage your circadian rhythm disorders, so your sleep syndromes.
Right.
And it can really help shift the normal sleeping pattern outside what is considered to be the social norm. So this is really important. A lot of people don't understand how important it is to make sure you get that great sleep and that rest.
Right.
And this can help.
And the light. So phototherapy is really
Yes.
helpful with that bright light.
Okay, that second one, a lot of people don't want to hear it, and I need to get back on this myself. But exercise really does improve your mental health. It helps to reduce anxiety, depression, and negative mood, and improves your self-esteem and cognitive function. It's also been found to alleviate symptoms such as low self-esteem and social withdrawal. So you're out there and you're walking and you can kind of clear your mind. And I do like that. And I've started a little bit again.
Okay.
I really need to get on it.
Right.
But you really can just put everything aside and you're walking and you're checking out people's houses and what the neighbors are doing, and you're not
Sure.
thinking about all your problems.
Right. And it doesn't have to be over-exercising.
No.
It could be something very simple, a leisurely walk.
Right.
And then just kind of ramp up. If you want to start doing a little more walking, do a little power walking, you can do that. Ramp up to it. But,
Yeah.
don't overwhelm
Jogging,
yourself.
whatever
Just,
you need to
just
do.
start simple. Start
Yes.
small.
Here's another one that we as therapists like to utilize, so cognitive behavioral therapy. And it's really effective for a range of problems: depression, anxiety disorders, alcohol, drug use problems, marital problems, eating disorders, everything, the gambit. So it involves efforts in trying to really change thinking patterns and behavior patterns. It's worked really well for us with a lot of our patients. I know you probably have utilized this as well. They respond well to it because they're a part of the planning. So what is it that, really helps you when you've done this before? So what are things that we can do to help change your thought process and also your behavior patterns? What are positive things that have come out of that type of behavior before?
Yeah.
So I found that it's been very helpful.
Yeah, and it's engaging because
Yes.
the participants get to write stuff down and kind of
Yes.
figure out. And when you start writing stuff down, you start seeing how you think on paper.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, that, and we call it stinking thinking sometimes, right?
Yeah.
You look at it and go, oh my gosh, I've got a lot of these negative thoughts, and they affect my behaviors and they affect my relationships, and
Yeah.
that's how it changes things.
And they're a part of it, and that's the
Right.
biggest thing.
Engaging.
Right. Healthy nutrition. Well, hello. So it's the holidays, and sometimes we might get off our diet, and that's okay as long as you get back on it the following week, or maybe the first of the year.
Right.
Because it's really hard to pass up some of those great meals that you're going to have and that great food, but you want to try to stay as healthy as possible, because that's really going to help you with everything else going on with your body and mind.
Yeah, and thinking about empty calories sometimes. I changed my drink option today to go with 0 calories.
There you go.
I did that one thing today.
See,
So,
one
something
thing
positive. There you go.
Sleep studies to rule out sleep apnea. This is huge. So we're still talking once again about your sleeping patterns and how that really affects your whole body and mind.
Right.
Lab test, really big. I know, when patients come in, we'll make sure that we're having all of those done, but we want to check their vitamin D level. Once again, are they getting the light that they need? That outside, so maybe it's, it's bad weather. You can't go outside and get that sunlight, but you can take vitamin D and that will help supplement.
Awesome.
And then pharmacology, of course. So prescriptive and over-the-counter medications. You want to make sure, though, that you're seeing a doctor
Yes.
to make sure that you are getting the right over-the-counter or prescriptive meds.
Right.
So suggestions to help cope. Realistic goals and plans. So we talked about that earlier.
Right.
Prioritizing your activities. So make sure you're really thinking about what it is you can and can't do in
Right.
time frames. And prioritize that. Stick to a budget, please, or else you'll have to go see those bank lenders. Maintain healthy habits. We just talked about that. Bedtime routine. Once again, sleep. Limit caffeine. For some
So
people,
important.
this is hard. Loving that coffee and can drink pots of it. Plan new traditions. So maybe we can't do what we always used to do, but we can have new traditions that are meaningful as well.
Right.
Learn to say no. Ooh, that's a big one.
Or the holiday version of that, learn to say Neaux. No,
Yeah,
I'm
that's
sorry.
right.
No, I can't.
Check out resources, get help, set aside differences, be present,
Important.
volunteer, and remember that alcohol, opiates, benzodiazepines, they're not good for you when
Right.
you're having depression, and they can
That's right.
really make it worse. But the most important thing that you can do and I can do is take care of ourselves, right? So the holidays are a time when we're encouraged to really think about other people, but we need to focus on ourselves as well, because if we don't take care of ourselves, then we become at risk.
Yep.
So just taking care of yourselves. If you don't, bad things will start to happen.
Yep.
So plan ahead, keep to your schedule, and scale back if you can. I love that little saying on there, you cannot pour out from an empty cup, so you got to take care of yourself first.
Absolutely. Take
And
care of you.
just want to end with one of my favorite people, Harry Potter from the movie. Happiness can be found even in the darkest of times if only one remembers to turn on the light. You got to look for those positive things to be.
We've
happy.
all got light inside of us. We got to find it.
Yeah.
So if people want help or need help, you need to see all of the volume of options there.
Yeah.
The Fuchs Behavioral Health Center, St. Mary, River Parishes Assessment Center, Terrebonne Behavioral Health Center, right here in town, and River Parishes Behavioral Health Center. The call line's very, very important. If you've got a question or if you need something, use the call line, 1-877-500-9997.
Yes, and we also have our Development Disabilities office. It's not on there, but you can call our administrative office or Terrebonne office there, and they will give you that number. The most important thing is to remember that if you need help, if you want to talk to someone, we're available 24/7, and we want to help you get through the holidays.
Can't thank you enough, Lisa. Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. All right, guys, that'll do it for this edition of Bayou Time. Don't go anywhere. A lot more local programming when we continue.